Dell's flagship laptop, the XPS 15 with Infinity Edge display, is something to drool about, but its price may be out of reach for some people. Fortunately, Dell offers a more affordable laptop with respectable specs. I'm talking about the Dell Inspiron 7559. It's also a laptop worth considering if you're looking for a budget gaming laptop. Here's my review. Starting at $799, the base model of the Dell Inspiron 15 7559 features a 15.6-inch 1080p anti-glare LED non-touch display, 6th Gen Intel Core i5 2.3 GHz processor, 8 gigs of RAM, 1 TB of 5400 RPM hard drive, and NVIDIA GeForce GTX 960M 4 gigs video card. There are other configurations above it. You can get a Dell Inspiron 15 with a 15.6-inch UHD LED touch display, 6th Gen Intel Core i7 2.7 GHz processor, 16 gigs of RAM, and 128 gigs of SSD with 1 TB of 5400 RPM hard drive. The top-of-the-line model costs $1,299. Our review unit is the base model in black with red accents. You could also get it in red or gray. What makes the Inspiron 15 7559 interesting is that the entire back panel comes off with one single screw. You could add a 256 gigs of M.2 SSD stick and another 8 gigs of RAM and still stay below $999. My first impressions of the Dell Inspiron 15 7559 is that it's large and heavy. It weighs 5.67 pounds and an inch thick. However, that is still thin in gaming notebooks standards. The laptop has a combination of a soft rubber material that feels nice to touch and a harder plastic surface surrounding the keyboard, display, and the bottom panel. One thing that I'm worried about is the flexing below the display. My model doesn't have a touchscreen, so I rarely touch that part, but that's something to look out for. Red accents can be found on the speakers, touchpad, vent, bottom strips for the grip, and the Dell logo. The left side has the power port, fan exhaust, 2 USB 3.0 ports, and a headset microphone combo port. The right side has a Kensington lock slot, Ethernet port, full-size HDMI, USB 3.0, and an SD card slot. I don't have any major complaints about the 15.6-inch 1080p IPS display on the Inspiron 15. Of course, I'd want a higher resolution and a touchscreen, but that upgrade costs extra. I like that I'm not bothered by reflections, and the display is bright enough at the maximum setting. The viewing angle is fine too, however, there are lights leaking from the bottom of the display, but they're only noticeable when the screen is showing something dark. Above the display is a wide-angle HD webcam with dual microphones. Here's the sample footage so you can see for yourself. The keyboard feels fine to type on. The key travel is shallow, but it's adequate. There's also a backlight button with high, low, and off options. And towards the right, there's a numeric keypad. I didn't think I'd need it, but it's nice to have for entering PIN numbers or doing calculations. The trackpad on the Dell Inspiron 7559 is large, and I found no issues at moving the pointer or scrolling through documents or web pages. I am right-handed though, so its position towards the left side is a bit uncomfortable. I'm also not a fan of the texture on the trackpad. I wish it felt smoother. Above the keyboard are the speakers. They're loud and sound fine to me. There's also the subwoofer at the bottom panel. I have no complaints for that either. The bass isn't enough to make my desk shake, but a laptop with a built-in subwoofer seems better than a laptop without one. The Dell Inspiron 7559 comes with Windows 10 Home. It also comes pre-installed with Dell software such as Dell Help and Support, Dell Shop, and Dell Audio. There's also an offer for 20 gigs of Dropbox space free for 1 year and a free 30-day trial for McAfee LiveSave. You can expect to see everything else that Windows 10 has to offer, like Cortana, Microsoft Edge, Office, Windows Store, and more. Unfortunately, Windows Hello isn't supported through an iris or fingerprint scanner. When it comes to performing tasks such as checking emails, browsing the web, listening to Pandora, or watching YouTube, the Inspiron 15 7559 performs smoothly. The main problem is the loading times when opening the more serious apps. For example, Photoshop takes about 50 seconds to load on my review unit. The main blame goes to the 5400 RPM hard drive. For comparison, the Lenovo Yoga 700 I recently reviewed has the same processor and RAM, but with faster SSD drive, can open Photoshop in about 10 seconds. If you're looking for numbers, here are the results from Crystal Diskmark and Geekbench 3. This performance issue can be fixed by adding an SSD drive and moving the system files there. The Dell Inspiron 15-7559 has an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 960M 4GB video card, which works well with the recent games. I've installed Just Cause 3 and Call of Duty Black Ops 3 on the machine, and they run at 48 to 60 frames per second at high settings. The dual fans on the Inspiron 15-7559 help keep it cool, but they're audible even at arm's length when playing games, editing on Photoshop, or sometimes when using Microsoft Edge. If you're playing a game, I suggest increasing the volume to drown out the fan noise. After about 20 minutes of gaming, the laptop hits about 95 to 100 degrees. The hot spots are in the middle of the keyboard and the vents at the bottom. With a 74 watt-hour 6-cell battery, the Inspiron 7559 gets about 5.5 hours until I have to plug it in. With gaming, it's about 2.5 hours. Laptop comes with a huge charger and a cable that's about 9 feet long. It takes up a good amount of space in the bag. Fully charging the Inspiron 15 takes about 2 hours. So what's the verdict on the Dell Inspiron 15-7559? I think this is a great laptop if you're looking to play some demanding games but don't want to spend too much money. It's also a cheaper alternative to consider if you're interested in the Dell XPS 15. The specs are similar, but the Inspiron 15 is bigger and heavier. The XPS 15 also has better materials with aluminum and carbon fiber as opposed to plastic on the Inspiron 15. Starting at $799, the Inspiron 15-7559 already has an NVIDIA GeForce GTX 960M 4GB of video card that is capable of playing recent games like Call of Duty, Black Ops 3, and Just Cause 3. A Dell XPS 15 with the same RAM and CPU costs about $1,200 and only has 2 gigs for its NVIDIA GeForce GTX 960M video card. The downside on the Dell Inspiron 15 is the slow loading times when opening apps and games, but that can be fixed by adding SSD and moving the system files there. You could also add another 8 gigs of RAM for another performance boost. These two components can be added by opening the bottom panel with just one screw. Overall, if you're looking for a budget gaming laptop, you'll be happy with the Inspiron 15-7559 from Dell. If you have any questions about this laptop, sound off in the comments section below. You could also find a written review at windowscentral.com. I'm Mark Wim. Thanks for watching.